Ed?
And under old business, yes.
Ed?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The hour is 7 p.m., and as mayor, I hereby call to order the Laconia City Council meeting scheduled for June 22nd, 2015. We will begin tonight with, as always, with a salute to our American flag. Please rise and join Councilor David Bounds in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would note for the record that the minutes tonight are being taken by City Clerk Mary Reynolds. I would ask the clerk to please call a roll.
Councilor Doyle?
Here.
Councilor Brown?
Here.
Councilor Littner?
Present.
Councilor Graham?
Present.
Councilor Campbell?
Present.
Councilor Bobbitt?
Here.
Presiding Mayor Edward Elway?
Better go with here tonight.
Now, you went with here last time.
Howard.
We can't get unanimous on this, can we? We just can't do it.
Let the record show that we have all 6 councilors present tonight. A quorum is established, and we're also joined at the front table tonight by City Manager Scott Myers and City Finance Director Donna Woodeman. First regular item of business on our agenda tonight is approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes that were distributed to councilors. One is for the regular and special budget hearing minutes for the meeting on June 8th, our last regularly scheduled meeting, and for a second set for the budget hearing minutes on June 15th, 2015. So a motion would be in order at this point in time to approve as submitted the minutes for the regular and budget hearing held on June 8, 2015.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Bolduc, seconded by Councilor Hamel. Any discussion of the June 8th minutes? All those in favor, please raise a hand.
Aye.
Minutes are adopted by unanimous vote. A motion would now be in order to approve the minutes of the budget hearing held on June 15th.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Bolduc, seconded by Councilor Bear. Any discussion of the June 15th minutes? All those in favor of adoption as submitted, please raise a hand.
Aye.
Vote is 6-0, and those minutes are approved as well. No consent and action calendar items tonight, so the next order of business is citizen comments for matters not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone in our audience tonight who would like to offer comment to the council on any item that is not anywhere on tonight's agenda? Mrs. Blizzard?
Good evening. I'd like to express my concern and disappointment over the events that took place at the City Council meeting on June 8th. During the City Council meeting on May 26th, the City Council asked the City Manager to start an informal discussion with Lakeport Landing and Irwin Marine regarding the sale of 21 Elm Street. You asked for consideration regarding easements for access to maintain utilities, Union Ave, and the retaining wall. You also mentioned that you would like to know the intention of use for the land and building in the future. I also remember hearing the City Council say that the final decision was not going to be based on the highest purchase price offered. I received the letter written by the City Manager, which stated that the letter was not intended to be a comprehensive bid document, and the city reserves all rights to request additional items in determining future disposition of the property. I made what I thought was my initial proposal, not a final bid, thinking that this was the beginning phase of the process. I anticipated that more questions would be asked and more proposals given. The end result would be a decision made by the City Council based on the organization who had offered the most complete and best package, not just for Laconia of today, but for the Laconia of the future. When the open discussions broke on June 8th and the council moved to meet behind closed doors, I sincerely thought that you were discussing the proposals and were going to come back with a list of recommendations and additional considerations. Never in my life did I think you were going to make your final decision that night. Had I been aware that this even could possibly ever be the case, I would have made a substantially higher offer to purchase that property. I ask that you take everything I've written to heart and make a motion to reconsider. Please give me the opportunity to have an open bidding process with the City Council and allow me to submit another offer. If you're not prepared to make that decision tonight, I ask that you consider putting it on the next City Council agenda. Thank you for your time.
Counselor Barron, did you have a comment?
Are we allowed to comment?
You may comment.
City Council Rule 21 permits this to be reconsidered. It's a suspension of the rules. It would take 2/3 of the majority. And so I'm prepared to ask or make a motion that we do reconsider the action we took.
All right, can we do that under old business then?
Sure.
So you're going to make a motion to suspend the rules?
Yes.
Okay.
Rule 21 of the city.
Remind me if I forget about it.
Okay. Oh,
I should ask from a parliamentary standpoint if the clerk or the city manager has some advice on us in terms of whether or not such a motion is in order, since are all rules suspendable regardless of,
And
the council rule says that an action can only be reconsidered at the same meeting or at the next meeting if it's placed on the agenda by someone who is on the prevailing side.
and my take on that would be, because that language is specific about a motion to reconsider, that a suspension of the rules would not necessarily apply. The suspension would be more general in nature, would be my take for you here when you ask me that question right now tonight. That specifically that it was stated that it needs to be their motion to reconsider needs to occur during the same meeting or in writing, so councilors are aware of advance notice for the future meeting, is the intent to, in essence, protect all councilors from knowing that something, and the public, is up for discussion again.
And there would be no time limit on that per se, so if we sought legal advice on this particular issue, we could take it up.
You
Could
could.
Counselor Barron's a motion at the next meeting?
So two things to keep in mind. Somebody could request that the rules are suspended so that somebody then, on the prevailing side, would have to be the one to make the motion to reconsider. So if there's two different votes, first to suspend the rules, then it would still require someone on the prevailing side. The second item that comes into play, and I'm not saying it's come into play yet, but if there has been a substantial action that has occurred that in essence is either irreversible or is working toward the earlier decision, then in essence it's too late for motion to reconsider. I'm not saying that's the case there, but if a vote was held a couple of weeks ago and a contract was signed last week and a particular contractor is mobilizing to do a road paving project, that would be considered that there was a substantial step or action was taken, and then at that point a motion to reconsider should not be allowed because of that action. I'm not saying there's been a substantive action taken at this point, but that would just be something in my general thoughts for you here tonight.
So Counselor Bear could make the motion to reconsider, to suspend the rules if we get a if we get an interpretation from council that that motion would be in order, and if that passed with 4 or more votes, then someone on the prevailing side of the previous motion would still have to make a motion to reconsider, correct?
Correct, and I don't have a great answer for you about suspending the rules, whereas this one is so specific. I think it was put into place as that protection for counselors, knowing that an item would be coming up a second time, and therefore it's noticed on the agenda, and for the members of the public as well. I think that's the spirit of that council rule, if you
So
want to look
would you
at
be
it that way.
comfortable with us seeking counsel on that and
Yes,
possibility of it coming
yes.
up at our next meeting then?
Yeah.
That would give you time to put it on the agenda that you intend to move for suspension of the rules at our next meeting. And we'd look to the city manager to
Yeah, we'll do that.
ask council for some advice on this.
I will.
Okay, so that seems to be where we're headed on this then, is we'll solicit the advice of council as to whether or not Counselor Bear's motion would be in order, and if the ruling is positive in that area, or the advice is positive in that area, she could put it on the agenda for our next meeting. Okay? Anyone else in the audience tonight who wishes to address the council on any matter that is not anywhere on tonight's agenda? Mr. St. Clair. Not on tonight's agenda, no, right? Okay.
I raced to get here, just in time.
They got to speeding.
No tickets. I just wanted to, as far as Motorcycle Week goes, I don't know if that's on the agenda. I didn't see a copy
is
back
not.
there. Okay. I've been telling department heads this, well, most of them, and certainly city employees, what a great job they did Motorcycle Week. So I figured, you know what, maybe I'll just say it for the record, for the viewers and for all of you here. And if I start pointing out people, I'm probably going to leave somebody out, but certainly the Laconia Police Department, mornings on Lakeside Avenue was pretty hectic, and we had some pretty big gypsy tours that left there in the morning, and Captain Cleary and his staff did an absolute marvelous job of getting those tours. One was over 200 motorcycles, and certainly they weren't thinking it was going to be that big, but it was. So I just wanted to say that. Also, Public Works did a very good job of getting the streets set up, Lakeside Avenue, for everything, and they were up there. I was surprised, but actually they were up there yesterday afternoon after 4:30, taking down some of the barricades that were up there and stuff. And if you were up there today, Ava probably notices as she drove through the area there, things were fast becoming back to normal up there, which is what most citizens of Laconia would like to see. So that's really a good thing. And again, just all the departments. I mean, Mayor, I've been bugging you about things for a long time with regards to different things. So it was just really a job well done by everybody. So that's what I wanted to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I pointed out to Mr. St. Clair that the only blight on Motorcycle Week this year was a downtown business property owner who had the audacity to post a sign on the side of his building at the corner of Main Street and Hanover Street that said Bike Week, welcome to Bike Week, instead of Motorcycle Week. Laconia Bike Week. So I don't know who that person was, but he'll need to be spoken to. Anyone else?
Well, that's pretty bad.
A matter that is not on tonight's agenda. Okay, we'll move on. Next order of business is public hearing, and that public hearing is a required hearing on the 2015-2016 budget. Call that hearing to order at 15 minutes past 7, and notice for the record that notice of the public hearing was made in the Wednesday, June 10th, 2015 edition of the Laconia Daily Sun. It was also posted at City Hall, the Gale Memorial Library, the Laconia Community Center, and the offices of the Laconia School District. So now is the time for anyone who would like to comment to council on the matter, any matter concerning the 2015-2016 budget. And if you come to the microphone, please identify yourself by name and address. It's a long line waiting to talk about the budget, huh?
What are they here for?
Anyone? Okay, I will close this public hearing at 7:16 PM. Presentations. We have a presentation from Mr. John Rogers from Laconia Bicycle Exchange about the Mayor's Challenge for Safer Cities. Mr. Rogers? Looks like Mr. Rogers has a guest with him.
Good evening. My name is John Rogers with the Laconia Area Bicycle Exchange. With me is Tim Blagden. He's with the Bike Walk Alliance of New Hampshire, and he's going to be making most of the presentation. I do have a quick piece of information that tells just basically what's been happening with the Bike Exchange, the hours of operation, the number of bicycles that were given out last year and this year, and a proposal that I talked with Mayor Engler about setting up some bicycle racks with pumps in various locations, public locations, and looking at some form of funding from local businesses. So that's basically what I had to say about that, and I've got some flyers about the exchange so that everybody can see what we're doing, and I'll pass this around, and then Tim is going to talk about the Mayor's Challenge. Thank
So we
you.
have two different
Any questions?
items
Any
here.
questions on that? After he's made his presentation, if there's any questions for either of us, we can take those questions.
Great. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Hello, Mayor Engler and council members. Thanks for your time and attention this evening. So we appreciate you putting the Mayor's Challenge for Safer People and Safer Streets on the agenda tonight. It's an opportunity for Laconia to investigate a methodology for designing roads that factor in all modes of travel, people walking and bicycling to get to employment opportunities and other destinations. So I view this as very much a transportation-focused initiative. This is not biking and walking so much for recreation as it is for equity access to get to where you need to go to hold a job or to run the errands that you need to make as a resident of Laconia. It's pretty simple on the outset. To join the challenge requires three things: a public statement about the importance of bicycle and pedestrian safety, forming a local action team to advance the safety and accessibility goals, and to take local action on 7 challenge activities. And I can see that most of you have the executive summary in hand, and I know it was part of the agenda item, so you've had an opportunity to read it. If you've taken a look at it, I won't go through it in detail. Rather, I'd answer any questions you might have on it. But we see this as an opportunity for cities around New Hampshire to sign on to this. Hanover signed on to it. Manchester has signed on to it. Portsmouth and Keene are in the process. It's in the works also at Concord. So this is I don't know how much complete streets work you're doing already in town. I know bicycling is very important to Laconia. You've got the WOW Trail and the like. So this is a chance to participate in a year and really study how you design streets for all users.
What do you
Yes.
What do you consider participation? What are you looking for from the city in terms of participation in the Mayor's Challenge?
So to participate, you basically form a committee to look at how are you doing in these 7 areas.
Okay.
So the challenge does not come with any money, and it does not require any spend. This is an exercise, it's a study in an approach in how to design streets. So it asks you to assess how the city is doing with complete streets, or recognizing whether there's any barriers to transportation, gathering data. I'll tell you what works when people are thinking about how am I going to get from where I am to where I want to go. If they're doing it by foot or on bike, they're going to think about the trip, and they're going to look at the scariest part of the trip. And they're going to say, do I have the guts? Am I ready to cross that intersection or go down that segment of road? Or is that one bit of it too scary? I'm going to take the car or find a bus. So a network approach in looking at your streets makes a big difference. How connected are you as a community so people can get to the grocery store, get to the laundromat, get to the employment centers from where they live? So, you know, it's looking at streets that way. It suggests when you make, when you're resurfacing town-maintained streets, thinking about, well, what can we do while the lines are up and the pavement's going back down? Are there any little adjustments we're going to make? A half a foot, narrowing the travel lane, widening the shoulder, without making the street wider, just changing where the paint goes. That's almost a zero-cost option, and it makes a difference to people that are trying to use that shoulder to walk or bike if there's no sidewalk there.
Does every city act independently in terms of their own infrastructure and making recommendations?
Yes.
And it's something that we incorporate with department heads like DPW and that kind of stuff?
Exactly. This is all about being local, with Laconia taking action, and what you get by being part of the challenge from Anthony Fox introduced this challenge. So he's the U.S. Secretary of Transportation. He didn't learn this stuff as U.S. Secretary of Transportation. He learned it when he was mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina. You know, he was a mayor, and he knows what you can get done at the municipal level. And that's why he said, you know what, I made a huge difference in Charlotte, and he's using his position now to challenge y'all across the country, municipalities across the country, to buy in on this approach.
I have a question you don't have to answer.
Okay.
Have you approached any communities who have said no?
I haven't gotten a no yet. I will tell you this, honestly, I was quite surprised that Manchester signed on. That was, I did not expect that, but we are super happy they did. And it was a real discussion in the chamber, but they did sign on May 19th. So I have requests in Franklin and Dover, and I have not heard back anything. So I haven't heard, we don't think so. I haven't gotten a no yet.
Did you actually make a presentation in Franklin or Dover?
No, not yet.
Have you been asked to?
I have not yet been asked to.
Just asking
Yeah,
busybody questions.
Yeah, no, I'm here as a resource for you, okay? My job at the Bike Walk Alliance of New Hampshire is to make cycling and walking safer and more convenient for people across the state.
Councilor Hamel?
For a city to sign on, I mean, what exactly are you looking for? I mean, say we sign on, what does that mean?
What it means is you've made a commitment to yourselves and to your citizens that you're going to look at this approach for designing streets. So it's, I don't know who here knows what complete streets is as a transportation idea. It's jargon. It means you're designing for all users. And there's a lot of techniques and factors that go into that. So what it does not mean is that every single street everywhere in town is going to have sidewalks on both sides and bike lanes on both sides. It's not that at all. It's how do we accommodate people who want to walk from this part of town to downtown? How are they going to get there? How are they going to reach the transportation, the bus stops, if you have bus stops in town? How can people bike across the town and get to where they need to go? So it gives you a chance to think about this and focus on it a little bit. And why is it important for Laconia to do this? Is I can tell you that nationally, and it's true in New Hampshire as well, people graduating from college, well-educated, looking for a place to settle down, these folks no longer have the love affair with cars that people who are in their 60s and 70s did. They have all the privacy and speed they need with their cell phones. They don't need a car to get away from parents and to have a private conversation and to visit their friends. They can do that all on their cell phones. So they use cars strategically. They're expensive to own and operate, and they'll get a zip car when they need one. They'll bum a car when they need one. They want to have transportation choice, and they're moving to cities that are much more accommodating for bicycle and walking and transit solutions. And this is a chance for Laconia to be in front of the curve and investigate in its own terms and its own pace how you want to deal with attracting new residents to the city for employment. So, that's...
Councilor Lippman?
Yes.
What you're really asking us for, if I could simplify it, I think, is as we're making changes in our roads, is to take these factors into account in our design, and to the extent that we can accommodate them within our own budget and our own means, we do so. Nothing more, nothing less.
That's it. And by signing on, there's people at the federal level that have developed materials that you have access to look at. But, it's exactly that. You're going to think about accommodating all users as a matter of practice and policy for a year. It's a one-year challenge. Pretty simple.
Any other questions? Councilor Bolduc?
I'm just having a problem. How are you going to get around the state requires that all towns and cities have lines on the side of their streets for bicycles? They have the same, everything is the same as a motor vehicle. You must be in that lane, you must be going, you must stop at red lights, you must be not on the sidewalks, but you're supposed to be in the street. And that's the state law.
Yes.
How do you, I don't know how you can, these streets in Laconia were made way back when they had horses, so they didn't have that big wide streets like the new cities and stuff that are
Right.
turning around.
Way back when you had bicycles.
Bicycles were
right.
bicycles. But how can you accommodate that today? You can't move streets, you can't make them any wider. The buildings are there, the sidewalks have to be a certain width.
So it's a really good question. Thank you for asking it. So there are ways to make the accommodations without making the right-of-way any wider. You can do things like make suggestion lanes. It's putting a dashed line down a street that suggest where bikes can go and where cars can go, but they can move into each other's space when they need to. So that's just one example. There are hundreds of ways of making streets more accommodating without making them wider. Pedestrian crossing, for example, you can make a bump out so that a pedestrian doesn't have to go quite such a distance to get from one side of the street to the other. That's an accommodation. It makes it easier for people who aren't as fast on their feet to make that crossing. Lots and lots of ways of doing it. So it's not impossible. If there's room in your heart, there's plenty of room in the street.
It'll be interesting.
Councilor Hamlin?
Yeah, you stated that Laconia can get ahead of the curve. I think we are ahead of the curve in some ways. We've been working for several years with the WOW Trail, and that organization has been fantastic on raising money, and the city just last year contributed $400,000 toward the extension of the WOW Trail, which eventually, hopefully, will encompass a pretty long trail. So, and that's a bicycle and walking trail to get from point A to
Yep.
point B. I think we've already. I'm not saying we can't do more, but I'm thinking that we've already been
Exactly.
doing that.
You're right. You're on the
Plus
way.
walking, plus a river walk.
So The WOW Trail as a rail trail and rail with trail, phenomenal backbone. They're great for, you can get on those, and because they're flat and wide, you can go for a great distance without getting winded or hitting a hill. They're really good transportation corridors. I'm sure if you're out enjoying those, the Riverwalk or the WOW Trail, you see how popular they are. This is asking you to, as you repave streets, as you think about changes on the rest of the transportation network, to make accommodations for or figure out what you could do to better accommodate a walking and biking community in the city.
I don't have a problem with that, but tell you the truth, I would rather see them on the WOW Trail and not mixed in with traffic. Because according to state law now, you have to give a 3-foot
Yes.
path to a bicyclist, and that means you got to go over the yellow line most of the time. So I would rather see them. I mean, when we do our roads and stuff, we could look at that, but I would rather see them on the WOW Trail.
Right, but cyclists, as you state, and as Mr. Bodek stated, they do have the rights as vehicles
That's right.
on the streets, so it's given that they're allowed to be there, and given that people who make less than $20,000 a year are 3 times more likely to either bike or walk to get to a job, we need to accommodate these people.
Don't disagree.
And so doing all that you can to make those accommodations on street as well as on trail is a big help. And that's what's going to add vibrance to your community.
So this paper you gave here,
That
One
one,
with,
John handed that out.
yeah, where it says you can exchange bikes or donate bikes and all that thing, who is responsible for that?
So John Rogers, who introduced me,
It's the Laconia Bicycle Exchange.
runs the Laconia Bicycle
Oh, okay.
Exchange. They take in donated bikes, fix them up, and give them to people in need to be able to get to jobs.
Okay, so you're not talking about places around town that these bikes are going to be, that someone can take it and go?
No, not a community bike share, no.
Okay.
No, this is a request to city government about how you're going to plan for the next year and how you're going to assess what you've got already, so that you understand what you've got.
Councilor Lippman?
Manager have any concern about this whatsoever?
Something we have to incorporate. We try to look at everything as for pedestrian safety in particular as we're looking at it. We've applied for the grants for the Safe Routes to School, and you were aware that we've got the $500,000 or so coming through the TAP grant, I think it is. That'll be finalized a little later this year. We'll start doing the design and engineer work for that. So certainly, I think when we do look at road projects, we do look at a number of factors to it, including, crosswalks and traffic calming measures where appropriate and modal. So I think it's just another step that would, make sure that we at least reviewed it in those projects that we were doing already.
And
Any other questions? So I think what'll happen here since, I'm sorry,
just a comment,
I'm sorry,
just a comment.
go ahead.
Okay. I mean, I like this, and that you're reaching out to cities all over the country to buy into this. And I think in some ways, like Councilor Hamel stated, we are really trying to do that, and there's no harm in this resolution at all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So I will have a conversation with the city manager and decide where we go next with this, in terms of soliciting input from various department heads and whatnot that have a direct bearing on this. And we will certainly do the courtesy of getting back to you one way or the other. We need more information or whatever the case may be is, but make sure we have your contact information.
Absolutely.
If we could. And we'll be happy to, after we've discussed it internally, we'll be happy to get back in touch with you.
Certainly. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Mr. Beadle?
May I comment on the presentation?
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Alan Beadle. I think it was 2 years ago that we had a presentation of complete streets at the Belknap Mill. And it was sponsored by Tom Claremont at LRG Healthcare, and the Belknap EDC. And I just want to add to the presentation today that these kind of things are going to help in many different ways, and not just the person, the 20,000 in income person who needs to get to work or to do errands, but as a tourism destination. More of these young people and families who want to get to a place and not have to get in the car to go down the street to the beach or to an errand. And as we grow the WOW Trail, it only increases the demand of people getting on their bikes to get to the WOW Trail, to go down a couple of miles, and then go somewhere else to their destination. And it's a great way to look at our streets and prioritize where to make the changes and where the trouble spots are for pedestrians and bicyclists.
What's the width that a bike path would take in a street?
Well,
I mean, what's from curbing to the white line?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, Armin said there's a state law of how much cars are supposed to yield, but certainly there's a huge amount of education that needs to take place for bicyclists, for starters, because they're not doing the rules of the road, and they're making motorists crazy. Mm-hmm. And then there's education for motorists to accommodate, and we have I respectfully would disagree with a couple of comments. We're a little behind with some of the cities and what they're doing. We're making our progress and we're doing what we can do, but we have great strides to bring those younger people here, whether it's for tourism or for jobs or just for our community to get around better. And this is another one of significant opportunities that are presenting itself to our city with what's happening downtown, getting the second phase of the WOW Trail coming right up. And to take this on is not any more cost. It's really kind of an awareness of what we can do as a city to improve our streets for not just cars, for pedestrians and cyclists. So I really hope you consider that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Sounds like it's the mayor's problem, yeah, the challenge.
I'm going to challenge the
Yeah,
mayor.
we got to see if there's a city councilor challenge or somewhere.
Another hand up back there, Mayor.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Muller, resident of Laconia on Old North Main Street, and also Community Health Improvement Specialist at the hospital. And I just, a couple of years ago, the Parks and Rec Department actually got a small grant to improve Wyatt Park. And if you recall, one of the things that happened while they were kind of working on that was they were standing there talking, I think, about sidewalks, and they were watching a family cross the street and realized what a difficult time they were having crossing the street at the crosswalk where it was. And they were able to move the crosswalk to a spot that was a safer location as part of that grant. And so I think there are ways that we can improve that we don't even kind of realize that maybe need improving until we kind of do a little bit of free research and some data collection and to kind of take a look at our city to see what kinds of things, are available. Talking about Alan's presentation that the gentleman had a couple of years ago, he talked about taking the street the exact width it already was. When you narrow the path that the car drives, it actually makes people drive slower, because when they have a larger width, they tend to drive faster. So narrowing the width of where the car drives can make the car drive slower and give the bike lane a little bit of width and a little bit of safety. So I support it as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment on this issue? John?
I just wanted to follow up on my presentation about the bike racks. I talked to Ed earlier on in the year about having bike racks in various locations of the city so people can come and lock their bikes, and also having a permanent air pump. And when I talked to Miles at M&C, he said that would be great because a lot of people come into the bike shop asking for air. So I think that would be a good way for security for people bringing in the bikes and being able to lock them. And I would be looking at following up and maybe talking to Lakes Region General Hospital, local banks, to see if they'd be willing to fund that. And I guess I would be looking at the city to help with location and maybe installation. And Tim also has information about bike workstations, so you have these portable stands that stand up and you can hook a bike to it, and then they have tools on cables so people can adjust their bicycles. So that's something else that's happening in a lot of cities. So I thought I'd follow up with that. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would add a comment that I did meet with Mr. Rogers personally on this general topic a few weeks ago, and I encouraged him to join with others who have specific interest or concerns on this issue to develop for us a list of priorities of things we can do to make specific things, I mean general things, specific things to do that we can do to make the city more bicycle friendly, whether that be racks or there's a particular intersection that's dangerous or confusing or whatever the case may be is. And I would reiterate that tonight, that you know, if the bicycling community in town could somehow put together that list, I think that would be a real head start for us to talk about specifics rather than just generalities about something. So if in other words, if we're going to talk about bicycle racks, exactly where should those bicycle racks be and what kind of rack should they be, that sort of thing. And we can take it from there. Okay, moving on. Mayor's report, a couple of items. One is to make mention of the hearing we have. We have a special meeting of the City Council scheduled for next Monday night, 6/29 at 7 p.m. And the sole item on that agenda is to take public input regarding a resolution before the City Council that night, which will be to declare there is a public benefit to the city becoming involved in the Colonial Theater purchase and renovation. So we will take public comment at 7 o'clock that night. I think it's been a few days now, since a week exactly, I guess, since the announcement was made on the Colonial Theater about the purchase of the theater by the Belknap Economic Development Council and the city's participation in that purchase and redevelopment effort. And can't speak for everyone, but certainly the people I have talked to have been almost universally positive in terms of, and I would say more than positive, greatly enthusiastic about this project probably coming to fruition at this point in time. So I think there's a lot of positive energy in the community. And whether you're positive or not, I would invite you, everyone, to come that night and give the council their input. You don't have to speak for long, can be 10 or 20 seconds if you like, in terms of just a general comment, but would invite all residents who are interested in this subject to come to that meeting. There is no other business. It's the first thing we get to, and we'll be happy to listen to you.
Time and place?
Councilor Hamel?
Time and place again?
Here?
Right here at 7 o'clock.
That's Monday?
Next Monday night, the 29th. And like I said, the only order of business on the agenda that night will be a resolution the council will have before it after the public hearing to declare a public benefit to the project. And that's it.
On that night, could a description of the funding aspects be made to the public on that night?
Can certainly do that. We've done it. I'm well rehearsed on
Right.
on doing that, and I'll be happy to do that.
No, just like Bob said, I've had people talk in favor of it, but they don't understand the funding. And you're excellent. You did it this morning on the radio, and it can't be said enough so that they understand.
Now, there is a little disinformation out there, I
Yeah.
think, in terms of exactly what the
That's why
city's
I
participation is,
Get it
and
printed
we'll,
right in the paper.
you know, we can try to correct that
Paper
as
is very
it
good.
arises.
Make us the article.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think council minds constructive criticism at all, as long as it's based on the facts in terms of what's really happening and what's really being proposed, and that's fine. Okay, and then the second item I'll mention again very quickly is we have 2 vacancies on the planning board, only 1 applicant, and the filing period was reopened for that, so that we can take this up again, and I'm not aware that anyone else to date has applied for the planning board positions, but they have until July 1 to make applications, so we're badly in need of volunteers who would have an interest in serving in the planning board, and would certainly encourage anyone, if they think that would be something that would be of interest to them personally, or they have in mind someone else, and the city manager's office is the appropriate place to get the paperwork. Next up, we have citizens' requests to comment on current agenda items. Is there anyone in the audience tonight who wishes to address the council on any matter that is on tonight's agenda anywhere? That is on tonight's agenda. No, we'll bring yours up individually. Okay, we'll move on then. Committee reports. I believe Government Operations and Ordinance had a meeting on June 15th. Councilor Doyle, can you fill us in on that?
We met and had a meeting regarding the noise ordinance and revisions that we will be making to it. It's been sent basically to planning, back to planning, I should say, to get the information together. We've got some sample ordinances from Hampton and
We're working on Portsmouth.
in Portsmouth, so that we can see how they handle it, how they handle their problems, then the calls, decibel levels, and et cetera. We've asked for some input just so that we can have a place to start, and then we can make adjustments to where we start. The planning board's gotten public information on this before, public input, and it was all over the place. So we just want to start with something so that we can amend it as we need to.
And so what will the next step be then?
For them to get back with us on something, just a starting point, a starting ordinance that we can put
Do
out
we have
for
a general
public discussion.
timetable on that, or?
We don't.
Probably looking at a couple of weeks. I know planning staff is going to work with the police department, licensing, myself, and again, it's the ordinances that other communities and resorts have is one component of it, but it's really the enforceability. So what's happening at 10 o'clock at night when a call comes in and someone needs to respond to it and make a fair and valid determination as to whether it complies with our ordinance. How do we measure it? How do we track it? How are we consistent? So we're reaching out to a couple of communities, and not only for the ordinance, but how they enforce it.
Are you checking in to see if they, maybe the shift supervisor or something would actually have a decibel meter or something like that they would bring out? I mean, how would you enforce loud noise if you don't have something you can
Well, that's one of
gauge
the things, and that's where a lot of the thing is an unreasonable noise, and so what's unreasonable? Is burning out of tires late at night could be considered unreasonable, but on the still of a night, if someone's going down and windows are open and sound travels, is someone's radio at a certain level? So it's trying to get that discretion out of it. At what point is noise out of a nightclub or a bar louder than maybe a motorcycle that was driving by and shifting gears and revving? That could actually be louder than the noise that's coming outside. So that's the real challenge, is how can we be fair, consistent, put everybody on a level playing field, and give our staff the tools they need to follow through on it.
I think one of the focuses was that we would be considering, which is a much more practical solution, changing some of the hours, changing the weekends, changing the way in which we manage events that are going on, to make it easier for those to take advantage of those times while still maintaining everybody's peace and quiet. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Any other committee business we need to discuss tonight? How about liaison reports? Counselor Hamel?
Just got one good thing, which is good news. Lake Region Public Access has I guess you could say, a finalist for station director.
Oh.
And it looks like that person will be put on. We just have to finish negotiating a couple things. Looks very promising, so probably within the next week, we'll have a new director for our station. So just want you to be aware of that.
Anything else, liaison-wise? Okay, city manager's report. Mr. Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your agenda packet for the meeting tonight, you have the projects update. This time of year, as you can imagine, we're in full swing with road construction projects, so a number of updates there on roads, a lot of them including, sewer work, water work, storm drains, in some cases, Liberty Utilities is there doing some natural gas work. So again, we try to coordinate every possible utility in there and do the roads comprehensively in an organized manner. Main Street Bridge was back to its normal traffic pattern on the Thursday before Motorcycle Week, as was required by contract. Piper has really done a good job on the bridge and working with our staff. There will be a couple of temporary, short-term, half-day type of detours over the next few weeks as we button up a few things and we work on what we call Phase 5, which is the gateway, doing some of the plantings and the improvements to the bump outs, the lighting, the finishing the railing, doing some of the aesthetics to it. But the regular traffic pattern is back as normal, and that will remain going forward. I also want to echo what Mr.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? I did hear the other day from a merchant that the street was going to be closed again for a full day.
Tomorrow, it's going to be a half-day. In the morning, it's going to be detoured just on the one, you'll be able to come over the bridge as normal. You'll be coming down Beacon East, and you'll have to turn down Hanover to get back onto Main Street right out in front of City Hall. So it's a half a day that the stretch of from basically the parking garage in Sawyers up to the stop sign is going to be closed for the half-day tomorrow morning, but detour
Not a
signs
full
will be in
day,
place.
though.
My understanding is, I want to pull up my email, but I think tomorrow is a half-day.
When are the railings going to be up?
They're working on that as we speak. They tried to stop all major work down there during Motorcycle Week, so they're in place and working toward them as we speak. I think the majority of the railing is up right now. It's just a few sections left to go. So following what Mr. St. Clair spoke of, Motorcycle Week is completed. I really want to give a shout out to our staff across, all departments. It's fire, police, Public Works, Park and Recreation, the folks in this building here, from my, administrative assistant Nancy, who oversees our boardwalk vendors, to the folks in finance, planning, code, licensing, clerk's office. Everybody really, steps up and works through this, and it is a team effort. And we've got such a seasoned staff where they really have it down, pat, and they know where to look and what to look for and where the trouble spots might be. And going through the process and going through the licensing is just second nature to a lot of them as to what's happening down there. So, so they do a great job, and as well as Charlie and Jennifer did with organizing the event. So it definitely was a fantastic event. Just one final quick note tonight. We have had a glitch in city email this past week or so. We did a scheduled update, and what's happening with our email is some of the filters on the spam and blocking mail were adjusted with this update we were required to do. So in a few cases, somebody may have sent emails and they didn't get through, and it's not because of staff trying not to respond. We didn't realize it for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden doing it. So we're making some modifications to that. So if anybody, felt like they sent something in and didn't get an immediate response, and it's happening across all departments, we think we've got a handle on it. In the last Friday and into today seems to be a lot better, but something may have gotten lost out there in that black hole, and don't hesitate to reach out again. As for anybody who might have sent an email. So
I never had a problem.
Your rotary phone.
And I'll be happy to take any questions or comments.
Councilor Hamel?
Got a few questions for you, Scott. Several months ago, I asked that Highland Street be looked at for whatever repairs might need to be done to the substructures there. Just kind of curious if that's anywhere, or if it isn't, could we, check on that?
Sure. I know it was on the radar of not only our Public Works Director, but Busby, but I will get you a status update this week.
Okay, because there's quite a few that should be looked at before winter. Also, in our repairs down around the bridge area, the sidewalks on the backside of Sawyer that go up along the backside of the mall, I've had a few comments where there's no handicap dip to the sidewalks there, just granite that comes around into the back parking lot over there.
Yep.
Could we look into that while we're doing major whatever in that area to see if we could dip those down for wheelchairs and things like that?
I'm pretty sure that one's the next phase, as well as in front of the parking garage coming in to the entrance to Grace Capital Church is going to have a sidewalk there and a ramp going up, so I'll double check on a tip down there.
Okay. Also, in reference to Bike Week, I also appreciate all our departments, what they did to make that successful. I do have a question on the days that it rained, which was probably Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and I think Sunday. I'd like to know what the staff was supposed to be and if personnel was sent home on those days.
I'll get that for
On
you.
the rainy days, if personnel was sent home for the two safety services.
Okay.
And, okay, that's it. Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions or comments for the manager? Okay, we'll move on to new business. First order of new business tonight is the first reading of a resolution relative to establishing a Parks and Recreation revolving fund
We'll do that one too.
for Community Center Gymnasium floor maintenance, and a request to schedule a public hearing on July 13th, 2015, during the regular city council meeting. You have a copy of the resolution in your packet, and we'll look to the city manager for an explanation.
This is pretty straightforward. Kevin Dunleavy, our Director for Facilities, Recreation, Parks, is here as well. He can chime in, but we just made a sizable investment in the floor. It looks great. This is in hoping that, any small kind of admission fees or charges for open gym or programs like that at the community center are allowed to be accumulated and be invested back into that facility for floor maintenance and upkeep so that the investment that was made stays solid for many, many years to come.
Okay.
Just for an added comment, since I'm the liaison from the council over there, as the manager said, that's a beautiful floor over there. And it costs, I believe, roughly, was it $4,000 to surface that? So the funds that they use, that they get from people using the gym would go back towards this, and I think it would be a great thing to do.
Okay, so we don't have to read the entire resolution tonight. I would entertain a motion to, according to Council Rule 28F1, to move a reading of the resolution in its entirety and read it tonight by title only. Moved by Councilor Bolduc, seconded by Councilor Hamel. Any discussion of reading the resolution by title only? All those in favor, please raise a hand. The vote is unanimous, and we will do that. Motion would then be in order to move a first reading of the resolution relative to establishing a Parks and Recreation revolving fund for the Community Center Gymnasium floor maintenance and to schedule a public hearing on the subject for July 13th, 2015 during the regular council meeting. Moved by Councilor Bolduc, seconded by Councilor Hamel. Is there any discussion of the resolution adoption on first reading? All those in favor, please raise a hand. Vote is 6-0, and that is approved. Item number 2 is a request for funds from a non-capital reserve fund for the repair and replacement of the garage bay door system for the Parks and Recreation Maintenance Garage in the amount not to exceed $7,000. And you have a memo from Mr. Dunleavy in your packet. Mr. Dunleavy, you want to give us a quick explanation?
Kevin Dunleavy, Director of Recreation and Facilities. Our maintenance garage, which sits behind the community center, has several bay doors for access into the facility. One of the bay doors has, the supporting structure for this door is failed, and we're looking at replacing the door itself, which is a significant size door. It's 14 feet wide by 12 feet high. And while we're, what's failed is really the frame system for the door that supports the door was originally mounted into the brick and mortar of the building, and those supports have pulled through the brick and mortar, and the door is unusable currently. And we're looking to refasten that to secure the frame of the door and replace the existing door. We had an inspection done by Charlie Raffo of the fire department last fall, early winter, and one of the things he pointed out that's deficient in that building is there's only one door, one access door for people for points of egress. And we're looking at, because we're doing significant work already, we're looking to replace the door with a, what they call a man door, meaning it's a bay garage door that has a door that a smaller door built in, and that would satisfy that deficiency.
Is this the front door facing the community center, or the one on the side?
The one on the side. So we're requesting the funds for that. My operating budget for that line item is $5,000, so it would be a significant amount, and that's why I'm requesting it through the non-capital reserve.
Any questions? Mr. Dunleavy? Counselor Bounds?
So I'll make a motion to,
Well, I just have a question, and I don't want to get involved in city business. Or
No, that's fine.
activity, but why aren't we going local with this?
I'll be honest with you, I called a local company in Laconia
Yeah?
3 times, and they never arrived.
Okay.
And I also called a company out of Meredith that came and never submitted a quote. So it took me a while to reach out and find somebody willing to do it. I think because of the complexity of the structure and how it's mounted into the brick and mortar was a little bit beyond what some people want to get involved in their defense.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Counselor Lippman moves to authorize funding from the non-capital reserve for the repair and replacement of a garage bay door system for Parks and Recreation and Maintenance Garage in an amount not to exceed $7,000. That motion is seconded by Counselor Hamel. Any further discussion?
I just want to point out that they're still going to manually roll it up. There's no motor on it, so.
Yeah, I did, you'll see in the quote, there was a price for, I'm not sure if we're going to do that or if we're going to use the old chain hoist, because that's one less thing that can go wrong if it's a chain hoist.
All those in favor of Counselor Lippman's motion, please raise a hand.
Aye.
Vote is 6-0, and that is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is department transfer requests. We have a number of them tonight. We need to go through them individually. So number 1 is, a motion would be in order to transfer, the explanations are before you, to transfer $4,500 from account 01415-4101-0000 clerk salaries to 01417-401-0000 election/equipment. Moved by Counselor Counselor Hamel, Counselor Bear, seconded by Counselor Bolduc. Any discussion of making that transfer as requested? All those in favor, please raise a hand. Vote is 6-0, that transfer is approved. Next up is a request to transfer $30,000 from account 01493-304-0003 solid waste Concord Co-op to 3 different account lines. 01502-000-1000 DPW winter maintenance. 2-01503-000-1000 DPW, winter maintenance outside services. And lastly, 2-01599-105 DPW overtime. Moved by Counselor Bolduc, seconded by Counselor Bear. Any discussion of that transferred from the Solid Waste Concord Co-op? All those in favor, please raise a hand. Vote is 6-0, and that is done. Next up is a request to transfer $7,000 from account 014791010000 Parks Salaries to 014802040000 Community Center Maintenance/Fuel. Counselor Bolduc, seconded by Counselor Bear. Any discussion of that transfer request? All those in favor, please raise a hand. Vote is unanimous, and that is adopted. Next, we have a request to transfer $6,000 from account 014791010000 Parks Salaries to 014352040000 Police Station Fuel. Moved by Counselor Bolduc, seconded by Counselor Bear. Any discussion of that transfer from park salaries to police station fuel? Counselor Hamel.
I'm just curious of why we're taking park salaries to pay for fuel at the police station, where we take salaries out of the parks to pay for their fuel over there. What's the, I mean, because it's available?
No, the facilities actually fall under Kevin's department, so the facilities, so the three buildings that within your budget book we have separate budgets for are the community center, city hall, and the police station. So those maintenance budgets are standalone that are overseen by Kevin's department.
So the fuel is not part of the police budget?
No, it's part of the police station facility budget, which is separate from the police department.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
Any
Thank you.
further discussion? All those in favor, please raise a hand. For the record, the vote is 5-0, and that motion is adopted. Last transfer request is $33,232.15 from account number 014791010000 Parks/Salaries to 58-401-479-0002, the Weirs Community Park. Moved by Counselor Bolduc, seconded by Counselor Doyle. Seconded by Counselor Doyle. Discussion.
Just get an explanation of that one.
Yeah.
Yes, we went out to bid in the Weirs Community Park last year, and we had a low bidder that was within parameters that actually had a faulty bid, if you will, where they didn't tally the subs correct into the final number, and we didn't want to be punitive. It was, in looking at the numbers and how it tallied up, it was clear that the bid that was made was the final number, but when you took the components of it and put it together, it actually was a piece missing, and the other bids were a fair amount higher than that. So again, trying not to be punitive for a local person, we ended up disqualifying that bid and letting that person, for lack of a better way of putting it, off the hook with minimal penalty. And again, it was an upstart local business. We didn't want to be overly heavy-handed on it. We went with the second highest bid. It was a qualified bidder. We did make some adjustments and scale back a few things within the project to come in. We felt the second and third bids, I think there was even a third bid on that one, Kevin, if I'm correctly, validated the fact that the second and the third bid were fairly close together, and this first bid was significantly under. So administratively, we worked through it, made some adjustments in order to keep the park on track and have it completed. We're looking to make up the $33,000 within the parks facility to bring that project to fruition, which it is.
Further discussion or questions?
I'll move the amount.
I think, where are we on
already
this?
have.
Did we,
Oh, you already did?
You got to vote on it.
we have a motion on the floor,
Oh, okay,
correct?
I'm sorry.
Ms. Reynolds? Yes. Yep, we already have a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Can I ask what the motion is?
The motion is to approve the last transfer request mentioned there, having to do with park salaries to Weirs Community Park, $33,000. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor, please raise a hand. Vote is 6-0 on this one, and that motion is passed. Stabilization account transfer request is next up. These are requests out of stabilization accounts. We need to take these individually as well. So a motion would be in order to transfer the amount of $29,930.50 from account 01212000010001 Primex Premium Refund Liability to account number 82-301-010-0000 Accrued Leave Stabilization Account. So this is into the accrued leave stabilization account. Are you making a motion? Counselor Bear makes a motion, seconded by Counselor Bolduc. Any discussion of this transfer to the accrued leave stabilization account? Counselor Hamel.
Scott, is this part of that $40,000?
No, this was actually a similar type of scenario. This is with Primex, who was our health carrier up until a couple of years ago when they got out of the business. As an insurance company will do when they cease to write new business, they have a run-out period in which they continue to pay claims that anything that may be in the pipeline. So this is I can't say it's 100% the final run-out, but it's probably pretty close to the final run-out dollar amount. The appropriate amount went back to employees based on their contribution, and this was a return of, in essence, ours as a member's surplus coming back to us.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, one further transfer, again into the accrued stabilization account, this time $100,000 from account 01433.
Vote on the first one, Mayor.
I'm sorry. Any further discussion of the first transfer request from Primex? Refund liability. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Vote is 6-0, and that is adopted. So now we're on to the second request for a transfer into the accrued leave stabilization account. This is in the amount of $100,000 and would come from account 01433-125-0000, workers' compensation, into account 82-301-010-0000, accrued leave stabilization account. Motion by Counselor Bear, seconded by Counselor Bolduc. Any discussion of this transfer request? All those in favor, please raise a hand. Vote is 6-0, and that is approved as well. Finally, we have a request to transfer a total of $75,000 into the fire staffing stabilization accounts from the following sources. First, from account 01445-106-0000, fire, sick/hurt coverage in the amount of $30,000. Second, account 01445-108-0000, from the fire vacation coverage, a total of $30,000. Finally, from account 01445-101-0000, fire salaries, the amount of $15,000, a total of $75,000, to be transferred into account 82-301-014-0000, fire staffing stabilization account. A motion to that effect, please, by Counselor Hamel, seconded by Counselor Lippman. Any discussion of that transfer into the fire staffing stabilization account? All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Vote is 5-1, and that motion passes. Thank you. Next up is Route 3 Business District signage. This piece of business was put on the agenda by Counselor Bear. Do you wish to address this, or should I defer immediately to Mr. St. Clair?
Yes, that would be nice.
Okay, Mr. St. Clair, you're up, sir.
You do have a map on your desk that
Yep.
came to us midday, and also a paper-clipped little packet with just some background information on some discussions that were held locally and with the state over the past couple of years.
I don't have a copy of that, but I think I'm familiar with it, I think. And with regards to these meetings that were held in the past, I
So
would,
this map was provided by you,
yes.
and this was provided by staff?
That was staff, either email from the Public Works Director, and it covered up a meeting that was held with state officials a couple of years ago, and actually correspondence from Kevin Dunleavy when he was at Public Works on this same matter on business district signage.
Okay.
You remember these, right? So I was just kind of, I'd forgotten about these, but I had seen them, and if anybody had any questions on some of the remarks on here from the state people, I would love to respond to them. Just love to respond to them.
Well, feel free to address them if you want to.
Well, there's one in here, if I recall, where the gentleman from the state makes reference to the fact that they like to hold signage down to 2 signs, I believe. And if you come up Interstate 93 before you get to exit 20, the very first over-the-head sign, I think, has 6 or 7 route signs on it. So obviously, by his findings, there must be car wrecks there all the time because everybody has to read all those signs. It's not really an issue. When the state does that now. You can drive around and see 3 to 4 route signs on one sign. So when they brought that up, I felt offended because that does, in fact, happen through the state DOT now with signage. And then I think the other thing he mentioned in there is that most people don't, I got the impression people aren't looking at signs, they're using their GPS. And if you look on, some GPSs already refer to this stretch of road we're talking about as Business 3. And I did not bring, I'm kicking myself because I didn't bring the vendor map that was put out by a company out of Wisconsin, or Minnesota, and they get all their information off GPS or Google or some of that stuff. And if you look at the map they've got on there an actual map of Laconia, in the Weirs Beach area. It has on there Business 3. And they didn't get that from me. They got that from when I saw it. I said, oh, look at that. That's nice. So there are people out there already in that segment of society referring it to what it was referred to until those signs disappeared maybe 15 years ago. It just disappeared.
What'd you do with it?
Oh, I didn't take them. I didn't take them. So, on this map here, those red dots are the areas, or the intersections where you would logically have a Business Route 3 sign there. So if you look at them, from the bottom up, that's obviously the entrance to the city on 3. And then you go up, and the next ones would logically be at the intersection of Main Street, South Main Street, and Union Avenue and Court Street. And then the next one up would be where Busy Corner is. You would have one on Church Street as you enter Union Avenue. And then you'd have one on each side of that intersection. And then Guilford Ave, when you come off Guilford Ave, you would have one on Guilford Ave. You'd have Business 3 with arrows pointing each direction, so you know whichever side you went, wherever turn you took, you'd be on Business 3. And then from there, you'd go up to the intersection of Elm Street. You'd have them there. And then there's another one up there where there's already I think it's 107, there's a sign there, so it would be added there, up by Mechanic Street. And then the last one would be where Business 3, it would say Business 3 end. If you're going north and if you're coming south, it would be Business 3 south. If you total those up, it's approximately 18 signs. The other thing I've done today, and I apologize, I tried to do this last week. I actually took one of these petitions into one restaurant where we had a thing on Thursday night, and I proceeded to leave it there. The owner there signed it. And I didn't have a chance. And even today, I was busy. But I got out, I think, you saw me, I was just starting. So I got one here from somebody leaving today. That has, these are all businesses on this section. And I have approximately, in an hour and a half, I was able to, about 2 hours, I was able to get 38, 39 signatures. Now, if you so instruct me, and Shauna had asked me to do this for a state DOT for the 2 ends, to get as many signatures as I can. I can still do that. But I got to tell you, this is a lovely job. And what's really time-consuming is that everybody has stories. when you go and talk to somebody. There's never been anyone say, oh yeah, it's signed and gone. They all have comments. And most of the comments were about time. This is great. The gentleman at Murphy's gas station next to Stafford's said that he spent most of his time explaining motorcyclists how to get back on US 3, going towards the Weirs. So this is a way, I mean, he would just be able to say, just follow the signs, Business 3 North. And it's going to bring you right back to McIntyre Circle. I will tell you that everybody that I asked today, I had 2 that declined. We'll be fair about this survey. One gentleman, and it's no big secret, the CVS there on Busy Corner, said he would have to check with his legal department. And I told him we didn't have time, but he could still do that if he wanted to. And the other one was a little art place that's next to the high school. Nice little place I'd never been in for. She was concerned that people would get confused because her business is listed as Union Avenue. And I explained to her that there's no chance that the Union Ave signs are coming down. Nonetheless, it was just I couldn't spend time with everybody. But most everybody that signed this were saying absolutely yes, 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 yes.
You have to go through DOT for those signs, or is that a local thing?
That's local because it's urban compact. The only place the DOT would come and be involved, and Kevin can back me up on this, is the 2 ends. Right. Off the city compact. So if you're coming down 3 and you're on the Guilford side of McIntyre Circle, there should be a sign there that says Business 3 South, pointing straight ahead. We can put, and actually, we can actually put a sign, I didn't even think about this, so let's bump it up to 19. As you're coming around from Lake Street, going onto Union Avenue to make the right turn, you would have a sign there too, that Business 3's right, here, right.
So the city could theoretically put up all of them except for the 2 at the end without DOT.
Where they're not on our, it's, if you look at the map here, that, this came from Planning Department, I really thank them for doing this. These signs are obviously from around the country. We don't have those on here. And if you travel around, the federal government puts these signs up for the interstates. So the Business Loop 5, these are actually interstate signs here. The Business Route 5, that's Interstate 5, which is out west. And they'll say Business Loop or they'll say alternate route. Interstate 80 through Nebraska has it all along. It's US 30, but they threw up a Interstate 80 alternate route. So if you get on 30 and you want to get back onto Interstate 80, you just follow the alternate route, and it brings you right back onto it.
See it all the time out and wherever.
I know.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to, and believe me, this is, I haven't hit anywhere on Main Street. They're all going to sign this. There's no reason why, because it's easier for them to give instructions. You guys, most of you guys are veterans here, so you remember when those Business 3 signs were up. But that's what they would look like. They would look approximately like this, Business 54 sign, and it would just have a number 3 in it.
I'll have to check your house and see how many are there.
Honest, I don't. Yeah, go in the store, see if any being sold. Oh, gee.
An antique,
No.
right?
No. I think this is really important for the businesses. And as the manager at the drugstore by the Landmark said, anything we can do to make it easier for people to find us downtown, we're all in favor of it. And that really is what this is about. Have I lost anybody?
7 locations and a total of 18 signs.
19 signs.
19 signs.
Yeah.
That seems like an awful lot of signs.
Well, it's an awful long road. I mean, it may seem fast to you, but when you're from out of town and you hit an intersection and it doesn't show, okay, which way do I turn? You need to see that sign right up ahead that you go straight. And and Kevin's on the TIF, we voted on this to support this, correct? So there is the support from the TIF. The TIF district has a very small part of it.
And where would these signs be, what would they be affixed to?
Well, most of the signs we have now are on metal poles, so they could actually be put right on that same pole.
Piggybacked on the same pole?
Correct. Now, I believe Public Service is in the process of trying to get us to remove any signage from those poles. So there may be a few signs that we still have on poles, but most of them are on metal poles. When you cross Elm Street on Union Avenue, there's signage right there where the Lakeport Association puts up the Christmas lights and everything. It's hard to see that sign because the tree branches have now pretty much covered it. So hopefully, maybe one there, but maybe those trees could be trimmed back a little bit. I don't believe you put Christmas lights on that particular tree right there. But most of the signage, obviously, is on metal poles already.
And where would we get these signs?
We do have some capability in our sign shop, and if not, if it was if it was a standard type of sign, sometimes it's easier to order them like stop signs. We don't make our own stop signs because there's companies that make them faster and cheaper than we do. But depending on whether or not it was a standard order or something that we could do in-house, one or the other. And I'm not arguing that we should or shouldn't do this. I'm just saying I literally got this map today at 1 o'clock. That's why it wasn't in your packet. I haven't had DPW just go out and look at these locations in sight and do whatever, happy to take whatever direction, but nobody from staff, other than I think Planning Department put this map together off of Charlie's original hand drawings, I believe, but this...
No.
Oh, okay.
No hand drawings.
No hand drawings. Anyway, we got this today at 1 o'clock, and that's why it wasn't in your packet, so...
Could we ask DPW to look into it?
Well, I would, that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking, can we
The
just look
cost
at this?
and-
Just from put a ballpark price,
Yep.
look at the sign location, does it make sense, and is there a spot? Because we can't hang items on telephone poles, we need to be on freestanding signs with everything that we do, so...
So are there any of these 19 locations where there's no sign there now, or are they all piggyback situations?
I think the only one that might not be piggyback, I'd have to look again, because that was a while ago I did that, maybe on Church Street when you're hitting Union Avenue.
They're a whole nother,
Right, and maybe,
Oh,
and on Messer Street, I may have miscounted, because I'm not
what's
sure.
on these poles now?
107 or 11 or whatever, whatever all the different routes that are out there. So this will be a single,
So they're already highway markers.
yeah. I'm not sure if, and like Messer Street, the reason Messer Street should be included when you go off Church Street and go up Messer Street is because so many people use that as a route, whether it's because of detours or whatever,
Well,
everybody uses
especially
Messer
coming
Street.
south.
Right.
You're
Could
not
be very
proposing to change what we all used to know as Route 3, that
Route three-
is
Route-
Union Avenue.
It's just business
To
route
Messer
3 instead of
Street,
3,
right?
that's all.
Huh? No. What I'm saying on Messer Street, Counselor, is that if you're on Messer Street and you're going to Union Avenue, I'm from Massachusetts, okay, where am I?
I
Oh,
see.
there's a Business 3 sign there saying, if I go right, I'm on Business 3, if I go straight, I'm on Business 3.
Okay.
So that's,
I got
that,
you.
yeah, okay.
I got you.
All right, no, we're not proposing to change it. We're proposing to make it simpler for us in town to give instructions and simpler for visitors that come into town to find their way in and out, to get back to the major route, which is US Route 3.
So Counselor Bear, would you agree we have a consensus to have the city manager meet with Public Works on this and view all these locations and come back to us at the next meeting? Cost associated with it would be good.
When they're inside the TIF district, it could be paid for there, right, for part of it?
Sure,
We
yeah.
also make signs, or do they have to be,
Well, that's what,
if it's a city sign, we can make them, or does it have to be made through the state?
I think we want something to look consistent with what people are used to seeing other places, so I have to check on the specific sign, whether
Yeah.
it's a standard one
It'd
that
have
would
to
be
be the
cheaper to
US
order.
symbol here, that it's a
cheaper
US
to order or do
highway.
whatever,
Yeah.
so I just want to look into the signs, what they have to look like, the cost, just verify the locations, that we've got a place to mount it without it being right in somebody's way, and just a little time to do a little
Where else could we draw
legwork.
money from?
Well, the Public Works budget has money in the signs portion of the budget, so I mean, they make customized signs various times for detours and different things, so we could pull it out of that. I don't think the expense of 19 signs is going to be burdensome. I just
Good.
want a little bit of time to do a little legwork on this, and
Do we have a template for US highway
I
sign?
have no idea.
I believe we do,
Probably have one
because
for
in
everything's
front of
done.
the photo tower, in front of the photo tower, they put up signage there, and that came from the city, not from...
Counselor Littman?
I think we've got it.
I'm happy to
Yeah.
facilitate it, just give me a couple of weeks and I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
2 weeks, right?
We don't meet for 3 weeks after the 29th, so I
June
get 3.
July 13th.
So should I continue
We'll keep
to-
this under old business, and,
Work with the manager.
or I'm sorry, we'll put it under, I don't know why it's under new business, should be under old business, and we'll put it under old business to be taken up at our July 13th meeting.
Should I continue to get signatures?
I'm sorry?
Should I continue to get
Is
signatures?
anybody interested in
No.
Mr. St. Clair continuing to get signatures?
Yeah, I think you got to work on that 24/7.
I think the answer is no.
Bless you. Thank you.
When you leave here, you can start.
Good job, Charlie.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, last up is Guilford and Laconia Transfer Station Memorandum, and my understanding, per communication with the city manager, that there's a small change necessitated to the memorandum that was provided you tonight, and for that reason, I would entertain a motion that this be tabled until our next meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Hamel, seconded by Counselor Bullock. Any discussion of tabling this to our meeting on July 13th, so it'd be old business on July 13th. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Vote is 6-0, and that is adopted. And that's our last item of new business. And with the council's indulgence, I would like to skip over old unfinished business for a moment and go to the nominations and elections, because I think we have I don't know how long that discussion is going to last. I think we have a couple of people in our audience tonight who are here specifically for the nominations, so if it's all right with all of you, take that up quickly. That's going to last very long. So we're now under nominations, appointments, and elections. And the first order of business would be to appoint Robert Ames to the Weirs Tax Increment Financing Advisory Board. Now, that's a 3-year term?
Yeah, because
3-year
it's
terms.
brand new, yeah.
We have term limits on or not term limits, but term length. on that.
We have staggered
Before.
terms, so I think once we filled that committee out, we would want to assign them to a specific,
3,
Well, how
2,
should this motion read then?
3, 2, and 1, I believe, are the...
if you want to classify it to a
Only got
length of
2
term right
people,
now, we're
yeah.
still going to need 3 other members. We're going to need at least one of the one to at least constitute a quorum for the committee at this point.
So
We'll
these
get
two
to
we
it,
could
but-
both do for 3 years?
Absolutely.
All right, so we'll entertain a motion then to appoint Robert Ames for a term of 3 years. Moved by Counselor Bullock, seconded by Counselor Doyle.
My only question is, will that limit our ability to recruit other members? Yeah, you know,
Everything is limited it so far. We haven't had any more applicants, have we?
Not that I'm aware of.
do we need to do a term on it? Can we leave it open-ended?
No, I think,
The person
No,
accepting
there's got to be
We have a
terms.
rule.
I think
We have to change the
by
downtown
ordinance
TIF
now,
to
they have to
terms.
have a specific term.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure the person accepting did want to know, but I don't care. I'm just
It's a
asking.
3-year sentence.
I thought there was 3, a 3-year, a 2-year, and a 1-year.
Yeah, we did initial staggering of, I think, 2 3 years, 2 years, and 1 year, and then they would roll on to be 3-year terms once we got the original staggering out of the
That's
way.
right.
How many are they supposed to have in total?
5. I
It's
think.
5.
5 for them as well. Can they conduct business with just 2?
Not yet.
No.
And there's minimal money there right now anyway, so this,
You have to have 3.
We're just starting in.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to appoint Robert Ames to a 3-year term. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise a hand.
Aye.
Thank you, the vote is unanimous, that appointment is made. Secondly, we have, I need to entertain a motion to appoint Russell Poirier to a 3-year term on the Weirs Tax Increment Financing Advisory Board. Moved by Counselor Bolduc, seconded by Counselor Doyle. Any discussion of appointing Mr. Poirier? Again, a 3-year term. All those in favor, please raise a hand.
Aye.
Vote is 6-0, and that appointment is made as well. Next up, we're on to the Board of Water Commissioners, and we have Joseph H. Driscoll III seeking reappointment as a full member of the Board of Water Commissioners to a 3-year term to expire at the end of June 2018.
So moved.
Moved by Counselor Bolduc, seconded by Counselor Doyle. Any discussion of appointing Mr. Driscoll to a full 3-year term on the Board of Water Commissioners? All those in favor, please raise a hand.
Aye.
Vote is 6-0, and that appointment is made. Finally, on the Lakes Region Planning Commission, City Council appointment, a motion would be in order to appoint Dean Anson II, who is seeking reappointment as the City Council's representative to the Lakes Region Planning Commission for a four-year term to expire at the end of June 2019. Moved by Councilor Bullock, seconded by Councilor Bear. Any discussion of appointing Mr. Anson as the City Council's representative to the Lakes Region Planning Commission? All those in favor?
Wasn't there 2 positions available?
One is appointed by the Planning Board, one by the City Council. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise a hand. Vote is 6-0, and that appointment is also made.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the end of appointments, and we're now back to unfinished business, budget resolutions. And I think everybody was here at between the 6 and 7 o'clock hours, and we were in the midst of a budget discussion. And I think when we had to adjourn to begin the regular meeting, we were discussing the fire department budget and possible changes there, too. Is there anyone who would like to continue while we're on that subject, anything about the fire department budget? Councilor Bear.
I know probably the majority is in favor of the SAFER. However, I am not, so I won't approve the fire department budget as it stands. And I also would like to take the $155,000 for the radios out of the CIP.
That was the same item that Councilor Hamel
Yes,
mentioned.
right.
Okay. Anything else?
No, and I do approve of cutting the school budget by 150.
Anyone else on the fire budget? Councilor
I'd like
Lippman?
to query the manager, and I had thrown out a number 150, you came back with 50. In terms of, it's in contingency, what the concern would be of having a higher, what the concern might be of having a higher number than 50 if it's still in contingency?
I just think for resources and allocating them where I feel the need is and that number is, we look at the last 2 years, and this year it's going to be 75,000 moving in, and last year was 70,000?
Yes.
So I think as far as the last 2 years' history of having the 9 firefighters on, additionally with folks under contract, we know that on July 1, those who are entitled to steps and a COLA are going into place, so wages for the next fiscal year, all things being equal, are going to be a couple % higher than this year, so therefore the cost of wages and overtime would be a little bit higher. So that was the justification for doing 50, and again, I think all departments do a great job of returning surplus money at the end to the general fund at the end of the year. So that was my reasoning.
So a number of 75 would be closer to experience.
I could justify 75, yes.
Councilor Hamel?
Just for a note, year-to-date totals on overtime from 14 to 15 at this particular time. For 15, it's 278,000. I'm not going to do the other part. And then on 214, it's 285. So there's less than $10,000 there under fire. Under ambulance, from 14 year-to-date to 15. 14 was 173, and 15 is 140. So there's roughly 30,000 there. That's comparing year-to-date this year to year-to-date last year.
I will weigh in at this point in time on the fire department budget. I've heard from 2 counselors tonight who have indicated that they would, well, I think we all realize that this is likely on the so-called SAFER grant firefighters to be a divided council vote. And I don't presume to know how everyone's going to vote on that, but given that it is divided, there is some chance that the mayor will be asked to cast a vote on this particular issue. And along the lines of what Councilor Lippman talked about earlier, my own position on this would be that, and I think I hinted at this at our last meeting when we had the fire chief here, that I would personally be very comfortable with cutting the various budgets of the fire department that have to do with overtime, realizing there's no specific line item for overtime, but there are 4 or 5 different accounts that overtime accumulates in. That given the surpluses that have been returned in that area since we went to 9 people per shift, I would be very comfortable with cutting that budget $50,000. So funding the additional 4 firefighters this year under that scenario would not require any new money in the budget. So that's, I think we could easily live with that budget-wise, understanding that circumstances could change, emergencies could happen, but I would point out that we don't stop plowing the streets because the winter maintenance budget runs out. We simply find a way to transfer funds from somewhere else if that happens in that event, and we could do the same in the fire department budget if we, for whatever reason, had to exceed the amount of money in that particular area that we kept. So if there are 4 or more votes to approve the Safer Firefighters without any offsetting motion, then so be it, and that will happen. But if it does come down to my vote, I will not vote to extend the 4 firefighters without that concession that $50,000 be taken out of the overtime budget for the fire department. Councilor Lippman.
Take a straw poll.
I'm sorry?
Can we take a straw poll just to get a sense of where we're at?
Everybody want to commit at this point in time on where they stand on the safer?
I can support the Safer Firefighters, especially with that $50,000 cut to overtime.
I think yours is a good solution, Mayor.
Councilor Bullock?
Well, that's a new scenario tonight, I guess. I don't know. It just, if we do, then it makes them feel like they've going to be there for the rest of the...
Of course they will.
I don't know. I don't think I can support it.
I'm sorry?
I'm not going to support it at this time.
So you're inclined not to support keeping the 4 firefighters on? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
I'm kind of in the same camp right now.
Okay.
Got to look at it and think about it a little bit more, that's it.
But we can see what happens.
Councilor Barry,
in
you've already stated
negotiations.
where you stand.
I think we all get to change our minds if we want to.
It's a straw poll.
So am I correct in assuming then the sense is 3-3
Yeah.
in terms of the firefighters?
Potential.
So maybe the mayor is in the middle on this one, huh? So.
I mean, I guess, the only thing that, as we consider the budget in the aggregate is, I think the manager's admonition to us about making sure that we think a step or two ahead here in terms of, whether we take this $50,000 cut or whatever. I'm talking about in the greatest scheme of things that, while I'm personally am looking for tax rate below 25 cents or 25 cents or below, I think we got to be careful not to go too far where we know we're coming up to a next year where we may have no inflation increase whatsoever, and we are going to have expenses that go higher than inflation.
Well, that $50,000 would be, if our target now is 100, if your target, I'm not saying it is, but
No,
if your target now is 100, that would be 50 right there.
That's not saying that the 155 for the radios is...
I think in terms of trying to take a step into this, I can support the other counselor's position with respect to the radios and wait another year on that to and do the 50,000 as well. And I think that gets us where we need to be and a little bit more. But I'd be concerned if we cut it too far that we're going to find ourselves in a position where we're not going to be able to deal with what we have to deal with in the next year.
Counselor Hamel?
When we had the discussion with the fire chief, you know, I brought up the fact about maybe phasing in the individuals doing 2 and then maybe 2 another year. But it's kind of like, you know, it's all or nothing. So that's why, you know, I'm kind of leaning not to do this. But thinking about things, the overtime budget for them, is there any way of separating those from those 3 lines and making an overtime line item?
You should.
I mean, we must have history of what comes out of each one of those. Is that possible to stop just, you know, using sick time, vacation time, and overtime, and then having an actual overtime budget, a line item?
Sure, it's basically those 3 line items just added together.
So that's your, so all 3 of those are basically the overtime budget for
With the exception of holiday time is someone's getting paid time and a half. It's not really they're out sick, hurt, vacation, personal day. They're working, but because they're working the holiday, they're getting paid. So it's the person who's scheduled to be there is getting paid. But all those collectively add up to any time we pay time and a half or greater, that's considered overtime. So we could blend them into, we could do a little side tab and just blend them into one. But it's basically those columns added together.
I would probably consider this if we reduce the overtime by 100,000.
I'm sorry, by what?
100,000.
So you've just upped my ante.
I upped your ante.
What if we were to take the radios off the docket and then take 50,000 and put it into contingency? You're netting out at 105 then.
I think it's a wise move.
Say that again?
Take the radios off the docket this year, that's 155. But instead of eliminating 50,000 in overtime, let's move it into contingency.
So take 50,000 out of overtime, move the other 50,000.
Well, that's basically what he was talking anyway, I think, right?
Well, no.
No, he was talking
because
eliminating 50,000, let's just move it to a contingency.
I'm
fund.
saying moving it, eliminating it from the fire department budget altogether, the $50,000.
You were talking about taking 50,000 out of the budget in terms of the overtime, right?
Completely.
The
Completely.
entire overall budget would be reduced in that action by $50,000.
Okay.
And that would be, let's see, we have,
If we move 50,000, like you said, Mayor, and then take the other 50 from the radios and put that in contingency, that would be the 100.
Well, we still would carry the 50,000 as part of the budget. We wouldn't be reducing our budget by $50,000 because we'd be moving it over into contingency.
But we will be reducing it
Negotiate.
by 105, netting out at 105,000 when we get rid of the radios.
Oh, I know.
So we lose 155,000 from the budget, and we just move 50,000 somewhere else.
Right.
So,
So I understand,
That's a- yeah.
you don't want to eliminate $50,000 from the overtime.
completely, no, I want it to, no, I want it out,
You
I
just
want it
want to
out
move
of...
it into contingency?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, so that it's there if we need it. It's a conservative approach.
You will.
Okay.
And that way, we still
I'm
retain
not su-
control, or we are informed if we have to move it.
I'm not sure I want to look at a tab next year of $155,000 to buy radios because it becomes absolutely necessary at that point.
Then look at it this year. It's,
Well,
you know, I mean,
I'm looking for a two-step approach. I'm looking for this year and
well,
next
it would
year.
give, maybe it
You
would
know,
give
I'm
the,
leaving Motorcycle Week alone.
but it would give the Bike Week Fund a little bit more
My
time to
original
accumulate.
thought on-
one at a time, please.
It would give the Bike Week Fund a little more time to accumulate some more money. And what was it, impact fees are at what?
For the fire department, the impact fees are running at $14,000.
What would we be looking at next year? Any clue?
15.
Probably would be another 15 to 20,000
So another
would be my guess.
30,000 from the impact fees for the radios. We could easily take 70,000 out of the bike week.
But we don't know that.
Well, 2 years, 35,000 this year, banked 35,000 next year, maybe. But still, you've found 30,000 on impact fees. That's going to, now, how much more will the radios cost next year, though?
It may be cheaper.
You
Was
know?
it ever established that the radios were a necessary item or something they wanted? He never did stress that they were in dire straits or needed repairs.
I think he
They're having some failure on them, and that's not a model that they're producing anymore, so regardless of whether it was Motorola or another brand, they would need to go out and replace them, and really, when
So
you're
every
dealing...
time a new model comes out, we'll have to convert.
Well, no, but this one they don't make anymore, so the radios, I don't know what their usual life cycle is, but radios will be manufactured for a certain number of years, and then as technology improves, they phase that one out. It's like cell phones. How many more on the Apple 6 or
That's what I'm
7
saying.
or
Every
8?
time
Can we mix and match?
Well, no, we can't.
The chief was concerned about doing that.
What if we fund it half this year, half next year, and we buy them in May or June? That way we get the same but the funding is coming out of 2 different years, 2 different budgets.
I think you're onto an approach in terms of, the radios will ultimately have to be replaced at some point. We could make some accommodation of that now in terms of reserving it for, out of that 85,000, we could take, half that amount and use that to start to save for the radios that we know we're eventually going to have to replace. If it's not this year, it's maybe 2 years from now, but it seems to me that, and that's a one-time expenditure, and I think that's a good way to do it. Again, I think, let's be careful here that, we don't set something we're not going to be able to sustain year after year in terms of how much we take out of the current budget.
Just dividing that's $3,500 per radio.
Well,
And
let's
that's-
put it this way, we have time we know we're going to need something, so, and I don't think we have to solve that right now, but just in terms of giving some direction to put, some portion away, even if we put half of it away, we have a year now to, to look into whether the reasonability of their estimate is good or not.
Well, my original thought would have been to take the 80,000, bank it, and then put that in an account, and then match it next year.
Well, that's what we're essentially saying.
Yeah.
That's what I think we're saying.
So, in your
I'm
mind,
still
which,
looking for
the 85,000 or the 70 that's coming out of the
I don't want to
motorcycle?
see 70 taken
I
out
don't
of
think
Bike
we'd
Week.
take it
fund.
out of Bike Week, because we heard from the police department that we could have some issues with the cost of coverage next year.
We've got about 110, just for reference, sitting in the Motorcycle Week account today before we've tallied anything through the week just finished.
Projections?
Way too early. The payroll just ended yesterday, and we're tallying and doing, and we'll have it for you
See,
for the next
I
week.
mean, if we decide we want to do a Bike Week fund, that can be voted on at any time, once the money's in there. That isn't something that, you've
So
got
we
to...
could just reduce this down to 75,000, put into an account, less
The
than,
good old contingency account.
why not?
Designate-
What's one more?
There's only 85,000 that's impacting the general fund. The other 70 was coming from Motorcycle Week. So if you're talking about
That's a transfer.
85, and if you're trying to reduce that, then maybe it's half of that number, which is 40 to 45, and you make a cut of the other 40 or 45, and that's I'm just offering a suggestion, that's the first piece towards where you want to get. But that's the real impact we're talking about, is 85,000. Do you want to bank half of that this year and figure out impact fees and where Motorcycle Week balance is, or pay the other half next year?
It seems to me it's a one-time expense or once-in-a-decade kind of expense. And we haven't had radios, I think, come up in the time that we've been on the council, the longest people. So, I mean, I think we, to plan for that doesn't seem to be foolish. It seems to be prudent.
What is the cost per unit on these radios? Do we know?
To 3,500?
353,500 apiece.
That's what that is.
$3,500 a piece?
Well, if you divide 44 into 155,000,
We'll
that's what
firm
it
up
comes
that
up
number
to. I mean,
for
that
you.
sounds like an awful lot of money. per portable radio. I could, you know,
Let's put it this way, if we put it into a reserve fund for fire equipment, we're not gonna be shortchanged in terms of having to spend it at some point anyways.
Agreed.
Okay, anyone else have any other items we haven't discussed yet that they would like to get on the table? Additions, subtractions?
I guess I want to discuss the school budget, because I'm not looking for a straw poll, but I think it would be imprudent to look at $150,000. I don't know what the number is, whether it's $50,000 or $100,000, and I think we need to spend some time looking at that. But just from what they've told me and where they're going to get that money, doesn't seem to me to make fiscal sense in terms of how we approach the school budget. It's part of kind of an overview.
we don't cut nothing, leave it at 36 cents.
I'm looking at about $150,000 in total savings in what our projected is. I want to adopt the kind of committee's projection of 25 or less, and 100 or 150 gets us down there. I know I'm looking for Public Works for some of that savings, but I just wanted to give you a view of where I'm coming from.
Counselor Littman?
One of the things we asked was there anything in the school budget that was like the radios that we could approach in two steps? Because, I mean, it just seems difficult to believe that on a budget that big that there's not 1 cent that in.
And they're going to get back to us.
Yeah, I mean, so I think we should
Only.
give them the,
Okay.
I think we should do the follow-up to see if there is something analogous where they could work into it. You know, I think taking it out of the building reserve fund, I think is, you know we need to make improvements in the high school, that there's pieces that, you know, we've made a commitment to the property, they've made some nice additions and renovations there. I think, you know, we're gonna spend that money ultimately anyways, so I think, you know, if I'd rather see them make an expense reduction and take less than to take it out of all the reserve funds. So I'd accept, I think, 100,000 versus 150 if they could come up with 50,000 of equivalent kind of
Equipment related.
putting something off
Yeah.
and doing it in two phases instead of one. Because I think we'll be, you know, between what we've identified, we've got 7 cents from the valuation, and then we'll have another nearly 10 cents with the 200,000. So we'll be reducing the 30, sorry,
19.
we'll be around 19 cents, right? I think that's good. I think that's
Say that again, how you're getting there?
100.
some, the 100 and 100. So we got
19
200
cents.
plus the, which is,
The 100, say,
is 10 cents. The 100 and 100 comes up to 10 cents off the tax rate, plus the 7 cents. That's 17 cents off. It gets us down to
19 cents.
19,
19. Is it?
119, instead of 1.
so you're talking 100 out of the school budget and 100 out of the city budget is the goal now.
Yes, assuming that the school comes back with something that's expense, not just deferring money into the, because I think they need to keep the update and investment in the plant. And then you had, from the 100 standpoint, 50 of that was from the fire. What's the other, the 50?
That would
The
be
other
my
50 from the
part.
We had
radios.
45 from the radios.
Radios, so then we need to find another 5.
Right.
We just get the LRPA shortage that I made you aware of, because we didn't get an invoice until 2 weeks ago, so we need about $6,700 to bring that line up to where it needs to be.
So we're looking at 10.
12,000.
We're looking at 12, doing the math your way.
So you were looking at DPW.
Still looking at DPW.
So out of a, what is it, $1,400,000 road budget, with 50,000?
We know we're way behind on roads.
We
so-
know we are.
So it doesn't seem like that's, I guess I'd ask the manager and see if there's anything more on carry forwards by the time is that it?
We've got a few carry forwards coming. Those were transfers tonight. We've got a few carry forwards, but as far as any one-time revenues, I know, Councilor Hammer brought up the 30,000 that I had mentioned a few weeks ago for the NHIT. We could add that to revenue, but if we just use that to offset the tax base, then it, again, is 30,000 in the whole next year.
So we put that 30,000 into, I guess it won't make a difference if we put it into a reserve, fund. That gives us the flexibility at another point, but.
Well, then it won't adjust the tax rate. It would just be, we're recognizing it as a revenue and an expenditure, and it has zero impact. I think that's the appropriate thing to do, but it has zero impact as far as reducing
That goes into the
budget.
capital building account,
Non-cap reserve.
cap reserve.
I mean, we haven't targeted, we're
Yeah.
not getting the money till August, we just found out about it 2 weeks ago, so if we're gonna recognize that 30,000, we can determine where we would like to put it. You did just move 200,000 into the non-cap reserve a couple of weeks ago, so that balance is over 300,000 as we stand today.
So let me do the numbers. So the proposal is to find, or the suggestion, the discussion is to find $100,000 somewhere in the school budget, potentially.
Well, from my standpoint, as long as, I'd go at 150 if all they're gonna do is come with reserve fund depletions. I think coming up with 50,000 on expense reduction is not an unreasonable ask.
Okay. So you'd go with 150.
Well, I'm saying I would accept, it'd either be 150 if they just want to just draw down reserve funds, or it'd be 100 if they come forward with some.
Actually cut expenses.
Cut expenses.
Okay.
I'd like to see them try to, it's hard, I think it's hard for the public to accept on a 30-something million budget that there's not one penny of expense.
Well, I think it's foolish to take 150, no matter how they come up with it, but we can have that discussion. I'm looking at numbers here, I get it. I get it. So, and then we're looking at 42.5 for the radios. We're discussing a potential 50,000 reduction in the fire department overtime stuff. That's on the table. So if you take the 150 and add all of that in, we are like way down.
Well, if we do 100 and 100 and take the 7 cents that the manager identified, we'll be at 19 cents.
Okay. So I'm not in disagreement in principle of 100 or 200. I guess the principle is how we get there, so, because I'm not looking to whack the school department for $150,000. You might push and shove me to $100,000, depending upon what the numbers are, but I'm looking for 50,000 from the schools. I'm looking $50,000 from the fire department in terms of the overtime salary. I'm looking for another 42.5 from the fire department in terms of the radios, and then...
Reserving that, correct?
Huh?
You're reserving that, you're not taking it out of the budget.
No, I'm taking it,
Taking
I'm taking it out.
You wanted to take
Taking half of it.
42.5.
We're taking half of it out.
I'm taking half
the
of
other
it
half
out.
in. Okay.
And
Is
we're
that
reserving
85
the
is
other
new money, right?
42.5.
The 85 part of it, yeah. So
And
he's-
I'm looking for anybody's help, or the manager's help, or maybe I do it all by myself, I don't know, for how we get to that $200,000 figure.
So you're saying 50 from the school, 50 from overtime, and 45,
42.5.
42.5 from radios.
Right.
So
And
that
then
would
we've
be
got to make...
$142,500
Right.
total,
So,
plus the 7 cents.
7 cents.
So if we work to try to bring you to a starting point, and not that you have to do it, but as a working document, what we would do kind of on the big budget summary page is just $5 million up in the assessed value, which we already spoke about. I'm going to remove $45,000. I'm going to forget the $70,000 for motorcycle week money for radios. That goes away. We're going to do $42,500, leave in the budget to reserve for radios at a future time, and in essence, cutting $42,500. I hope you're writing down as I'm speaking. Cutting $42,500 out of there. We're going to recognize the $30,000 in revenue as being returned from our health insurance risk pool, but we're going to offset that to be put into some kind of reserve account we could even just put it in contingency and deal with it later on. So we recognize it, and we're going to offset it, so there'll be no tax rate reduction from that, but we'll recognize it. And I'm going to remove $50,000, if I hadn't already said it, from fire overtime line items. And as a placeholder, do we want to just, till we see the numbers come in, do a $50,000 reduction on the school side as a place to launch us from, or do we want to do a different number for the school, or no number for the school right now?
Well, that's, Counselor Bound's suggestion is 50, Counselor
Minimum.
Lippman's suggestion is 100.
So I'm just trying to see where at least we have minimum common ground, so if we bring you this, you can substitute it in the whole, and then you can still continue to make further adjustments to it, but it can kind of get you there.
I'd be willing to look at 100
If you
for
give
the
us
school.
the $100,000, I can figure it from a $50,000 recommendation.
Okay, I'm trying to get an informal poll here. You agree with, we have two ideas here. One is 100 from the school, and one is 50 from the school.
I'd go more with the 100. I'd be willing to discuss that.
And my 100 is based on 50 coming from expenses.
And I will share that with the school department. So 100 from the school,
Armand, you say 50 or 100, or neither?
The 100.
100.
okay. And then I'm going to
Sir
be,
Doyle?
100.
100.
and then I'll be looking to add in
Anybody
the,
think about
No
this?
need for me to weigh in on that. Okay.
I'll be looking to add the
no.
LRPA money into it.
Henry's looking for 50 from the expense side of the sheet. So his 100 is not just a flat 100, it's a 50 from the expense side and 50 from the,
I mean, that's fine if they tell us that, but we have no control of telling them what to
We
do.
only
It's
do the
bottom
bottom
line,
line.
period.
Right, I mean,
That's
and
all
if-
we can do.
if they tell us that they get 50 from the expenses and 50
That's
from...
fine.
Then they're telling me they can make it with that.
They can make
That's
it.
what they're doing.
They can make.
So,
I mean, in either case, it's new money that they're raising, though, whether they're putting it into a reserve account or whatever, right? I mean,
It's.
they would raise 50,000 less to put into a reserve
Did they-
account.
Right.
Did they ever tell us why the budget is almost $1.5 million more than last
1,000 in
year?
overtime.
What
We
do
still
they-
have this, which we need to add.
Yeah,
Health
they-
health
What are they
ins-
doing with it?
Health insurance
Health
and
insurance
salaries.
was,
Well, $1 million.
This is a wash.
health insurance was like
Salaries?
600.
I mean, they've added one person, full-time employee to the staff, but they've offset that by letting go two part-time people doing the same thing.
They
So
also,
that's about a wash.
they had one-time savings and health insurance rebates that aren't available anymore. That was the big increase in health insurance, was like 6-something with that impact.
So let us put that together for you with I hear consensus of 100 for the school, and you can adjust it. We'll do the radios we spoke of, $50,000 reduction in fire overtime. We'll recognize the small addition to LRPA. We'll do just the radios we talked about. We're going to recognize the $30,000 in revenue coming in from the return. That's going to go into contingency for a placeholder, and we're going to increase the assessment of the citywide value by $5 million. So
Is that pretty reliable? That,
we have been
assessment?
fine-tuning it every 2 weeks since March.
Okay.
So
But we can still change our minds even after you get this done.
absolutely,
Oh,
I'll just
yeah.
do this as a working
You did this
document.
last year.
And if you substitute that one in, that can move that all in one fell swoop. But then you're still free to make any other adjustments up or down on, even on items that you just amended. So that could kind of move it in one block, and then you can still have full line item authority over the city budget to do whatever else you want to do.
Now, there have been another number of other items mentioned here tonight that are not in the notes that the city manager is taking right now, and I just want to call everyone's attention to the fact that either tonight or when we meet again on July 13th, each counselor has the right, certainly, to put any other subject on the table at that point in time and ask either for a straw vote tonight or a formal vote on the 13th.
Something else I would like that I already spoke about is adding of the windows here under that
Yeah,
bond.
well, that's what I'm saying.
Under the bond for the beach. And also, I'd like to take a look at doing Levitt Park.
So would you like a straw on that tonight, or would you want to?
Yeah, that's fine. And also, I'd like to have maybe some
What windows
input.
are you talking about? These windows here?
Yes,
Okay.
Not these,
60,000 to, it's from this side back. That side's okay.
all the leaky stuff.
And also for us
building.
to
Yeah, it's.
look at the Levitt Park tennis court,
Been asking for it for years.
From there,
which they're not paying attention, so
Yeah,
it
the
doesn't
old,
matter.
the old windows. All the way
Is there a amount on that?
60,000.
Memorial, are we doing
Yeah, Memorial's
Memorial this year?
These windows are original.
Is there a amount on the Levitt Park tennis court?
It was 20.
80,000, I thought. 1,000?
No, it was-
Tennis courts were full reconstruct, it was 70 or 75,000, and that's the one that we're holding off,
we're
because we're applying for a
looking
grant
bond
right now.
money and-
Applying for a grant?
United States Tennis Association grant, and I know that the Levitt Park 2 associations have offered to do that, so I think...
We should wait.
Well, I don't think we ought to put it in, because I think if we fund some money, then we don't necessarily qualify for the grant. But I think that was an excellent example of that 200,000 the council moved into the non-cap reserve a few weeks ago. We'll apply for the grant. We know there's a generous offer to do some donations from the Levitt Park, 2 different associations, and then see what we need to do it out of non-cap reserve.
Right.
So I don't think you need to do
That's fine.
anything
I'll
with
let
this
you
budget.
suggest the wording of the straw vote you'd like tonight on the windows. That's what you want?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
like to know
You'd
if
like to
any,
have $60,000 added to the budget.
added to the bond for
Debt
Weir's
service.
Beach, which is a $300,000 bond, so it would bump it up to 360.
You're asking for the debt service for $60,000 to be added to the budget.
Exactly.
Right, right.
And that is to replace windows at City Hall.
The old city hall.
I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding for support, so we'll run that calculation.
Well, no, I'll go along with the $60,000, but, no, I'm only kidding, I'm not going to say that, yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
okay with that.
Counselor Hamel would like to add that to the budget.
Why do you want to cut $100,000?
So let's
Where do you think
go
they
around the
get that
table.
money?
Who would be willing to support that initiative
The windows.
for the windows?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
100th. It's such a minuscule.
Counselor Bounds, yes or no?
On which one? On-
Windows.
Windows.
Yes.
All right. So that's in. Windows is in.
So
The
now
debt-
you
the
just got to
debt
go
service
find
on-
more money.
It would be debt service, so.
Right.
Right.
So it would add a
It's
tiny
a lot
amount to our
cheaper-
debt
it's a lot
service
cheaper doing
budget.
it that way.
Very
than
minuscule.
taking it right out.
Increase the amount of the windows.
Tax rate hardly at all.
Okay, anybody else want a straw vote tonight on any of the initiatives that they brought up that we haven't reconciled?
Got your windows.
Okay, all right, so I guess we have a starting point then for July 13th?
We can get this to you, the raw number, tomorrow.
Okay,
I just want to let you know that I'm not going to be
Wednesday.
here on the 27th.
you're not what?
I'm not going to be here on July 27th. So if we have some divided issues,
So we ought to try to get the budget
We can
passed
do
on the
anything we want
13th
that
then.
night.
With that in mind, knowing we're going to be one down, we ought to
We're
try
just,
to...
that's just the discussion for the Colonial that night. Oh, July, I'm sorry.
July 27th.
July 27th.
No, I'm not missing the Colonial.
We're probably going to be voting on that before this anyway.
He's working on his stage voice already. Here's his projector.
As a matter of fact, I am. I'm on the show, and it's Hell Week.
You've got a
Theoretically, the budget
speaking
could be
part.
voted on the 13th, right?
Yeah, I think we're aiming right now for budget approval on the 13th of July, unless we run into some, I think we're well down the road to it now, unless somebody comes up with something radically different. Obviously, now, what's the timing in terms of hearing back from the school department? I don't think we want them coming in on the 13th.
I will share the sentiment of 100,000 if it is involving operational or equipment cuts to the budget versus just reserve, and I'll ask them for a quick turnaround, and we'll get that document to you when they provide it to me.
Would you agree with that? We don't want them coming in with the 13th and us hearing that for the
Correct.
first time, I
No.
would think.
I mean, if they don't come up with anything in our time frame, then just do the 150. That'd be my position.
We still have to find another $60,000.
For what?
Oh, maybe we don't. Maybe we can get within that number with the bond.
Get to the 19,
With
we
the
need
bond.
200.
Huh?
To get,
Well, we're about 19 or 20 or something, yeah. Well, we'll get an idea from you.
We'll have this number for you on Wednesday, and we got plenty of time on the 13th to do it.
Okay, anything else tonight on budget from anyone?
Yeah, I thought this was really productive.
Okay, thank you. We'll pick that up again then on July 13th, and we've covered, I don't think there are any other unfinished business items. We have covered nominations and elections, council comments. Mr. Doyle.
Well, aside from Bike Week being amazing and all the departments doing a great job, I saw DPW trucks running out in the weirs on after hours, on Saturday, on Sunday, like Charlie was saying, they were down there. They were everywhere. The police were great. They were pleasant. Good job for them. Thank you very much. I also wanted to let everybody know, I don't know how many people are aware of the meeting that's going to be coming tomorrow night for the
DOT.
the bridge, the railroad bridge at the
Oh, I
Weirs.
forgot all about that.
That meeting is tomorrow night here in this room. Doors open at 6:30 and it starts at 7.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that they're going to be, I guess, trying to find out what the residents want, if they're going to shut the road down for a month or if they're going to be detouring it for several months.
Meeting is here.
It's here tomorrow night, yes.
At 7.
I'm pretty sure Nancy forwarded you all the letter and the scheduling of it, so.
Got it right here, just making sure.
Or maybe
They
the
did.
planning board.
They did, but
did
I
it,
just
yeah.
want to remind anybody that might be interested, that might be impacted by this, that they maybe want to get here.
Counselor Bear.
I just wanted to bring up the matter of closing the local welfare department. I talked with Scott, and I've spoken with Senator Hosmer, and he's spoken with Foresterism. But is that something that we still have time to get some word out to our delegation? Is the time past?
I believe the Senate and the House have come together on agreement with where they're at, and they'll be voting to approve their budget on Thursday, I believe. And then it's to the governor, so I think the dollar.
Is that million out still in the conference report?
I don't know.
I don't know the answer to
I
that.
don't believe it is.
I don't think so. But
You think it's in or out?
I think the closing is a maneuver to address the shortfall on
Yes.
the comp free budget as opposed to being a specific line item, as I understand it.
And I don't think it's a real threat. I think it's just a lot of.
It's a terrible
gamesmanship.
hardship.
Well, of course it is, you know. Oh, I can get down to Concord easily, but not
Good.
everybody who takes those services. can get down.
Exactly. The people that needed the help the most are the ones that can't get to Concord.
Either have no way or can't afford it.
Yeah. It's gamesmanship as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah. But why is it, just seems, I mean, we're a county seat. They took away our motor vehicle things, which was a hardship, but this is even more so. But, you know, it seems like we're kind of the poor relatives around
They
here.
were looking at closing four
Four in-
district
yeah.
district offices,
Yeah,
and I think,
but most up north, too.
Where are they
That's
gonna,
even worse than Laconia.
Yeah.
where are they gonna go?
It's not welfare, though, that's, huh?
You're gonna have to go to Concord.
Human,
Yeah, it is.
it's everything.
something human resources.
They
or
did
whatever.
that,
That's the
with-
welfare department.
Department of Health and Human
they did that with the
Services.
license.
Yes, yeah.
Any other council comments?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
We don't have a need for a non-public tonight, I don't believe.
Thank God.
Counselor Hamel moves for adjournment. Is there a second? Counselor Bolduc seconds that. All those